two really interesting aspects for us. From a surprising perspective, what was most surprising to me was how when you opened, you'd mentioned that we had 50 visitors from 50 countries, and that was the multiculturalism of Second Life was really, really surprising to me. And then there was powerful lessons we learned as we watched avatars from different cultures interact, and to discover that they brought with them their own personal cultures and in a very powerful collaborative way learned about each other. So that was surprising. And then the final surprising point over the last year has to watch the increase in the very young population in virtual worlds, from Second Life's teen world to the world of Barbie Girl that has more than 13 million residents. Club Penguin has more than 12 million residents. What we have to keep our eye on is the workforce of today and what the impact is, but also this very young population will rapidly become the workforce of tomorrow.
Great. And you and I spoke a lot about how Manpower considers its exploration in the metaverse to be equal to any exploration in an emerging labor market in the world. And since Manpower has experience in 80 labor markets, if you could talk a little bit about that, that would be fantastic.
Yes, when we looked at Second Life, and perhaps because of the way it's structured as a world, it really struck us as an emerging economy. So when we go to any emerging economy, we understand what the lay of the land is, what the infrastructure is, what the culture of the people are, and then where do we fit in. And what we discovered in Second Life was that although there is an economy, a separate economy with Linden dollars, when you think about transporting, the work into a virtual world, there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be put in place relative to a formal labor market. So if you think about, how do people get paid? How do they pay remittances? What's the role of government? All of that infrastructure really needs to be put in place to make it a formal labor market. But the power and access to people and to talent makes it really worth us continuing to pursue the journey and exploration.
Thank you. Philip, Linden, there have been a number of failed attempts by companies to create a presence in Second Life, and the media often latches on to these failures as evidence that there's little value in such development. Part of the reason for such failures often seems to stem from outdated business models being applied to a new paradigm. Can you tell us about the way Linden Lab's 275 global employees work virtually and share advice for the best uses of Second Life for business?
Sure. I think there's really, two different questions or topics there. One is how we work as Linden Lab in Second Life, which I think is interesting, and then the broader question, as you say, of businesses trying different models in Second Life and succeeding or failing. To the first point, more specifically, our company is still, a small to medium-sized organization. We're about 275 people. Less than half of those people are here, where I'm sitting right now, actually talking to everyone in the San Francisco office, which is our largest office. The rest of us are all over the world. A number of us, what we call moon labbers, are people working entirely at home, and then we also have 5 other offices. One of them not in the U.S., the rest in the U.S. at present. But we work, as you guys can imagine, almost exclusively in Second Life. The majority, easily more than half the meetings that any employee at Linden Lab attends are meetings that happen entirely in Second Life. Certainly all our all-hands meetings and, general kind of learning, university-style classwork and things like that we do are all conducted entirely in Second Life. We obviously have some great real estate there, as you might imagine. We've found that the power of that is obviously tremendous. I don't think that we as a small company faced with such a complex mission and kind of such a demand for reactivity and aggressive and rapid software development could actually, I think it would be unlikely that we would be as geographically dispersed as workers if we didn't have Second Life. I think we would have made a decision to consolidate, to not hire remotely, certainly to not hire internationally at this stage in our growth, and we're able to do it because of Second Life. So I think it's a pretty profound change, and certainly, for my own strategic thinking about the business and how we grow as a company, you have to take into account that if we are able to, get over the hurdles of complexity and use in Second Life and make such material advantage as a company, certainly other companies are going to be able to. To your point about failed business paradigms or old business paradigms, I think that every new medium has had this same phenomena where when you have a new space like what we're doing here, like virtual worlds in general, everybody comes into those worlds, whether they're individuals or companies, and tries to do, frankly, just about everything. A lot of those ideas will fail, as they inevitably do in any new medium, and a lot of the media focus around use of virtual worlds has been on things like more conventional types of marketing, for example, where in a lot of cases the worlds are too small or the technology not robust enough to enable those types of experiences to really work. However, I think the really positive impact and what we're talking about today of the virtual world at this point in its growth is in its ability to enable collaborative work. And in that sense, there's obviously a tremendous amount going on and all kinds of positive media stories and, very few or many less negative experiences. So I think that everybody goes through this natural evolution from experimentation to early ideas that don't work to sort of, semi-mature ideas that start to take off. And there's a natural evolution, and we're just seeing at this point in time the emergence of collaborative work as a really significant phenomena and change agent inside Second Life.
You mentioned recently when we spoke of the concept of a global workflow, something akin to the idea, the way I interpreted it, and I'd like you to speak a little bit more about it, that there'll just sort of be this wave that goes around the world across time zones. You said that the one limitation to working virtually, which is something that we felt as we were putting this event together, we're working with a team with people in Australia, Scotland, Germany, and you feel the pinch from the time zones, and that does appear to be a limitation. So can you speak a little bit about the global workflow?
Yeah, we are working around the clock because we have, as you say, we have people in every time zone or many time zones. And the way we try to use that, there's a few theories. As I said when we spoke before about this, the one barrier between people that Second Life and virtual worlds more generally does not flatten out is the time zone problem. It's really, I think, in a sense, in a very inspiring way, it's the only problem that you don't get past. However, it's a significant sticking point. If I have a meeting and I want it to be an all-hands meeting, for example, when we introduced our new CEO, I had to have a meeting, the whole company, where everyone was invited, and pretty much everybody wanted to come. And of course, many of those people had to wake up at very unusual hours to come to that meeting, and that is a very significant impact on people. One of the things we try to do, though, is, as you said, is to build a workflow where people can kind of hand off work to each other around the clock, and I think that's a model. It works particularly well in software development because you can establish a kind of a linear process or a semi-linear process by which work is passed from one group to another. For example, you can write software and then you can test software, and you can do those two things sequentially in time. So when people go to sleep, they hand off their work to the people who are just waking up and testing it. I don't know that applies to every workflow, but I think what we'll see is companies trying to taking advantage of virtual worlds and making those kinds of connected workflows as a way of helping their companies succeed, even despite the time zone problems.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dan Darrow, Horatio DaCosta. Dan Darrow and his team of 4 paid employees and nearly